Hi, it's Sue with today's Bible reading for January 20th. And get your popcorn because we're about to view an epic drama in Exodus 7 through 9 as Moses has returned back to Egypt to invoke the help of his brother Aaron to go before Pharaoh to demand that Pharaoh let the people of Israel go, that he releases them from slavery, from bondage, so that they can go back into their land that God had given them and worship God and be free from Egyptian oppression. Chapter 7, verse 1. Yahweh said to Moses, Behold, I have made you as God to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet. You shall speak all that I command you, and Aaron your brother shall speak to Pharaoh, that he let the children of Israel go out of the land. I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh will not listen to you, so I will lay my hand on Egypt, and bring out my armies, my people the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. The Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh when I stretch out my hand on Egypt and bring the children of Israel out from among them. So let me stop already and say two things. On my community tab on YouTube, there is a 60-second short that I reposted from someone about this idea of God hardening Pharaoh's heart. He gives a great metaphor for that and just really helpful for understanding. Goes perfectly with this segment of our reading. So thought it was appropriate to post that. And secondly, actually there's three things. It's interesting that he called Israel his armies. I mean, surely they didn't have an army formed while they were in Egypt as slaves. They wouldn't have even been allowed to do anything like that. And he listened for it because he calls them his army again later. And then also was that other thought. I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. Just those two. Verse 6. Moses and Aaron did so, as Yahweh commanded them, so they did. Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 years old when they spoke to Pharaoh. Yahweh spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, When Pharaoh speaks to you, saying, Perform a miracle, then you shall tell Aaron, Take your rod and cast it down before Pharaoh, and it will become a serpent. Moses and Aaron went in to Pharaoh, and they did so as Yahweh had commanded. Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called for the wise men and the sorcerers. They also, the magicians of Egypt, did the same thing with their enchantments. For they each cast down their rods, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he didn't listen to them, as Yahweh had spoken. Yahweh said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is stubborn. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning. Behold, he is going out to the water. You shall stand by the river's bank to meet him. You shall take the rod which was turned to a serpent in your hand. You shall tell him, Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, has sent me to you, saying, Let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. Behold, until now you have not listened. Now you see how Moses is starting to become a thorn in Pharaoh's side. I mean, he goes out to get his water in the morning, as is his normal routine, and there's Moses. So that's just the beginning of the agitation that Moses is going to be to Pharaoh. So it says, um, Behold, until now you haven't listened. Yahweh says, In this you shall know that I am Yahweh. Behold, I will strike with the rod that is in my hand on the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. The first that are in the river will die, and the river will become foul. The Egyptians will loathe to drink water from the river. Yahweh said to Moses, Tell Aaron, take your rod and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over their rivers, over their streams, and over their pools, and over their ponds of water, that they may become blood. There will be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood and in vessels of stone. So there's the first of the 10 plagues. Verse 20. Moses and Aaron did so as Yahweh commanded, and he lifted up the rod and struck the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. The fish that were in the river died, the river became foul. The Egyptians couldn't drink water from the river. The blood was throughout all the land of Egypt. The magicians of Egypt did the same thing with their enchantments. So Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he didn't listen to them as Yahweh had spoken. Pharaoh turned and went into the house, and he didn't even take this to heart. All the Egyptians dug around the river for water to drink, for they couldn't drink the river water. 7 days were fulfilled after Yahweh had struck the river. Can you imagine what that looked like, everybody digging around? I mean, think how fast things can get uprooted. Look what happened with COVID. And that's kind of like with them. One day life was one way, and the next day it was, you know, tragedy. And there are parallels with this and the um, vials, trumpets, and bowls in the book of Revelation when those last judgments come. So it says, Yahweh spoke to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh and tell him, this is what Yahweh says, let my people go that they may serve me. If you refuse to let them go, behold, I will plague all your borders with frogs." I'm sorry, I thought I'd skipped a part, but I didn't. "The river will swarm with frogs, which will go up and come out into your house and into your bedroom and on your bed and onto the house of your servants and on your people and into your ovens and into your kneading troughs. The frogs shall come up both on you and on your people and on all your servants." Yahweh said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, stretch out your hand with your rod over the rivers, over the streams, and over the pools, and cause frogs to come up on the land of Egypt." Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. The magicians did the same thing with their enchantments and brought up frogs on the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, "Entreat Yahweh that he take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go that they may sacrifice to Yahweh." Moses said to Pharaoh, "I give you the honor of setting the time that I should pray for you and for your servants and for your people, that the frogs be destroyed from you and your houses and remain in the river only." Pharaoh said, "Tomorrow." Now, why didn't he say right now, like today? Isn't that curious? Why did he say tomorrow? You'd think he'd want him done immediately. And I also wondered, it never gives a part where Pharaoh asks him to stop the blood. It goes right from blood to frogs. It never has where he says, "Please stop the blood and I'll let you go." So I wonder if they still had this issue with the water as blood too. So he says, "Tomorrow." Moses said, "Let it be according to your word, that you may know that there is no one like Yahweh our God. The frogs shall depart from you and from your houses and from your servants and from your people. They shall remain in the river only." Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried to Yahweh concerning the frogs which he had brought on Pharaoh. Yahweh did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the courts, and out of the fields. They gathered them together in heaps, and the land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was a respite, he hardened his heart and didn't listen to them as Yahweh had spoken. Now, go ahead and listen to that little short that I posted on my community tab about God hardening Pharaoh's heart. But I want to add another thought to it, which is really very different, not necessarily in disagreement, but different. You know, when you have a leader who has so much power, that's very hard for them to give up. You have your systems in place, everything the way you want it. You have goals, you have plans for building and creating. When you have that kind of power, you basically can do whatever you want. You have the luxury, you have little fear of, being hurt or defeated or lacking, Um, and that's very, 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 I can only imagine, very difficult to give up that kind of power. That's why power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Because how do you give that up? And as soon as you do, you're in fear of anyone you made your enemy killing you and, just being without. How do you go backwards from that kind of power? I'm sure it's very difficult for any human, but especially someone with a wicked heart, which is usually what they have to get there, right? Um, yeah, so there's a thought for you about that. It, related to, God's head, his heart is stubborn. He's got a hard heart. Now, why it says God hardened his heart, I don't know. That's more answered in the little short that I posted on my community tab about Pharaoh's hardened heart. Okay, verse 16. Yahweh said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, stretch out your rod and strike the dust of the earth, that it may become lice throughout all the land." They did so, and Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod and struck the dust of the earth, and there were lice on man and on animal. All the dust of the earth became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. The magicians tried with their enchantments to produce lice, but they couldn't. There were lice on man and on animal. Then the magician said to Pharaoh, "This is God's finger." But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he didn't listen to them as Yahweh had spoken. Yahweh said to Moses, "Rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Behold, he comes out to the water, and tell him, This is what Yahweh says, let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if you will not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies on you and your servants and on your people and into your houses. The houses of Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies. Oh, can you imagine? And also the ground they are on. I will set apart in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end you may know that I am Yahweh on the earth. I will put a division between my people and your people. This sign shall happen by tomorrow. Yahweh did so, and there came grievous swarms of flies into the house of Pharaoh and into his servants' houses. In all the land of Egypt, the land was corrupted by reason of the swarms of flies. 25. Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, go sacrifice to your God in the land. Moses said, it isn't appropriate to do so, for we shall sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians to Yahweh our God. Wait, what? Let me back up. I didn't catch that. You may have, but I didn't. So we had the swarms. Pharaoh called for Moses and said, go sacrifice to God in the land. Moses said, it isn't appropriate to do so, for we shall sacrifice the abominations of the Egyptians to Yahweh our God. Behold, if we sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians before their eyes, won't they stone us? We will go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to Yahweh our God as he shall command us. Okay, I don't understand that those couple of verses. Write in the comments if you understand that verse 26 and 27. Verse 28. Pharaoh said, I will let you go that you may sacrifice to Yahweh your God in the wilderness. Only you shall not go very far away. Pray for me. Moses said, behold, I'm going out from you. I will pray to Yahweh that the swarms of flies may depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people tomorrow. Only don't let Pharaoh deal deceitfully any more in not letting the people go to sacrifice to Yahweh. Moses went out from Pharaoh and prayed to Yahweh. Yahweh did according to the word of Moses, and he removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. There remained not one. Pharaoh hardened his heart this time also, and he didn't let the people go. Then Yahweh said to Moses, go into Pharaoh and tell him, this is what Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go that they may serve me. For if you refuse to let them go and hold them still, behold, Yahweh's hand is on your livestock, which are in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the herds, and on the flocks, with a very grievous pestilence. Yahweh will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt, and nothing shall die of all that belongs to the children of Israel. Yahweh appointed a set time, saying, tomorrow Yahweh shall do this thing in the land. Yahweh did that thing on the next day, and all the livestock of Egypt died, but the livestock of the children of Israel, not one died. Pharaoh sent, and behold, there was not so much as one of the livestock of the Israelites dead. But the heart of Pharaoh was stubborn, and he didn't let the people go. Do you see this goes along with what I always say about God's long-suffering and mercy and perfect justice? He's giving Pharaoh every opportunity to repent so that Pharaoh proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that he does not want God, and he proves his wickedness, and God proves beyond a shadow of accusation that he's just. No one can accuse God of not giving people a chance. And not only Pharaoh, but all the Egyptians that see what's going on. And the Israelites weren't the only ones that came out. There were other non-Hebrews that came out with the children of Israel when they came out from Egypt into the wilderness. And they were all called the children of God. They were grouped together, referenced as the children of God, and it was Hebrews and non-Hebrews who came out. So here's God making himself known to this entire, think about the realm of Egypt, their realm of control. It's really amazing and beautiful thing, the way God just keeps reaching out. And think about Moses and Aaron couldn't see what was about to happen. They were kind of going along as God gave them the instructions. They didn't know that the next, that there were going to be 10 plagues. I don't think it doesn't record that they did. So, anyway, yeah, God's perfect justice. So verse 8, Yahweh said to Moses and to Aaron, take handfuls of ashes of the furnace and let Moses sprinkle it toward the sky in the sight of Pharaoh. It shall become small dust over all the land of Egypt, and shall be boils and blisters breaking out on man and on animal, throughout the land of Egypt. So this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the 6th plague out of 10. They took ashes of the furnace and stood before Pharaoh and Moses, sprinkled it up toward the sky, and it became boils and blisters, breaking out on man and animal. The magicians couldn't stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils were on the magicians and on all the Egyptians. Yahweh hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he didn't listen to them as Yahweh had spoken to Moses. Yahweh said to Moses, "Rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh and tell him, 'This is what Yahweh says. The God of the Hebrews says, let my people go that they may serve me.'" Same message. Let my people go that they may serve me. Let my people go that they may serve me. It's the same thing over and over. Simple. Just do it, right? Verse 14. For this time I will send all my plagues against your heart, against your officials, and against your people, that you may know that there is no one like me in all the earth. For now I would have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, and you would have been cut off from the earth. But indeed, for this cause I have made you stand, to show you my power, and that my name may be declared throughout all the earth. Because you still exalt yourself against my people, that you won't let them go. Behold, tomorrow about this time I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail, such as has not been seen in Egypt since the day it was founded, even until now. Now therefore command that all your livestock and all that you have in the field be brought into shelter. The hail will come down on every man and animal that is found in the field and isn't brought home, and they will die. Those who feared Yahweh's word among the servants of Pharaoh made their servants and livestock flee into the houses. So see, people are getting it. Pharaoh may not be, because he doesn't want to give up his kingdom, but people are understanding now. And I believe that's one reason God said, get the livestock in, because he cared about people, right? He doesn't want them getting hurt. Because that would literally kill you, not just, make you itch or aggravate you with flies. It's much more serious. So it says, those who feared Yahweh's word among the servants of Pharaoh made their servants and their livestock flee into the houses. Whoever didn't respect Yahweh's word left his servants and his livestock in the field. Yahweh said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward the sky, that there may be hail in the land of Egypt, on man and on animal, and on every herb of the field throughout the land of Egypt. Moses stretched out his rod toward the heavens, and Yahweh sent thunder and hail and lightning flash down to the earth. Yahweh rained hail on the land of Egypt. So there was a very severe hail and lightning mixed with the hail, such as had not been in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. The hail struck throughout all the land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and animal, and the hail struck every herb of the field and broke every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, there was no hail. Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and said to them, I have sinned this time. Yahweh is righteous, and I and my people are wicked. About time. Verse 28. Pray to Yahweh, for there has been enough of mighty thunderings and hail. I will let you go, and you shall stay no longer. Moses said to him, as soon as I have gone out of the city, I will spread out my hands to Yahweh. The thunder shall cease, and there will not be any more hail, that you may know that the earth is Yahweh's. But as for you and your servants, I know that you don't yet fear Yahweh God. The flax and the barley were struck, for the barley had ripened and the flax was blooming. But the wheat and the spelt were not struck, for they had not grown up. Moses went out of the city from Pharaoh and spread out his hands to Yahweh, and the thunders and hail ceased, and the rain was not poured on the earth. When Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunders had ceased, he sinned yet more, and hardened his heart, he and his servants. The heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he didn't let the children of Israel go, just as Yahweh had spoken through Moses. That's it for today. We still have 3 more of the plagues of Egypt to come. No, 3. I'm not going to tell you what they are. That'd be a spoiler. So join me then. Until then, God bless you. Shalom, shalom.